as well. Let's have a look and see what classes they have brought to the table then. The figurative table, not the literal table, of course, because it is a video game. Just in case you were wondering at home. Druid band for Duncan and the Priest band for Deathsie. What are your thoughts looking at those classes?
So, with the Druid band from Duncan, that makes me think for Deathsie's lineup, it's less aggressive. The Warrior probably more likely to be a Taunt or Control Warrior now, given that he's banned away the Control Killer in what is most likely the Jade Druid. So it would be nice to see something a little bit different, given how aggressive the majority of the lineups have been so far. And from Duncan, banning the Priest doesn't really tell us all too much about what it could be.
I mean, I was expecting, I think, more Priest bans today.
Yeah, me too.
When we saw game one and we thought it was going to be both Priests banned, it wasn't in the end, but that was the kind of way I thought the Premiership was going to line up, especially for the first week, whilst everyone's putting a bit of a feeler out, not wondering how people are going to play. Yeah, a little bit like that, a little bit of that kind of a feeler. Well, I just went for that, but if we're going to twinkle our fingers as well, a bit of jazz hands, why not? Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've determined how much we like jazz.
And we have, and how much we like feelers. Or the band. Is that a band?
Feelers?
No. Foo Fighters.
There are other bands.
There
the
are
Beatles,
other bands.
Oasis. Many bands are available.
They are. Do you know what isn't available?
Tell me.
Other brands of mugs. Just this one. Whatever it is. Big Bang Racing.
Jake.
No idea what it is. But honestly, I'm really excited for this series. I love how today has gone. Today had the potential to be one of the best series, so one of the best days we've ever had on Premiership. Just looking at the lineup. Of course, as of next week, we will have every game on stream. So this week was the only week where we had to choose, as it were, of which games. So clearly there were the bigger names that have been put on stream. But honestly, this is the best the Premiership has ever looked. When we go from Season 1, where there were a few good players that were relatively unknown at the time anyway, to then Season 2, 3, 4, 4, where everything's just kind of elevated slowly and slowly. And now, by seeing the inclusion of the likes of George C, I think that really shows where the ESL Premiership has got to in terms of UK Hearthstone.
And this is exactly what you want. You want the fact that you're re-inviting the players who did especially well to kind of distill the tournament down to the best. It kind of has fortuitously worked out where we still have a lot of the good players like Boar and Jambray making its way through again.
Sorry, it was shining in my eye, so I moved it. It's really, look at it.
Yeah. If you were trapped in the middle of a desert, we'd see you in no time.
True. Or I could light fires with it. Maybe, like by shining light, reflecting
That'd be pretty
on wood.
sick.
That would be. ESL Premiership, making fires. ESL Premiership is lit.
Boy!
Yeah, never say that. We won't say that again. We're sorry. Deathsie and Duncan, we have the webcams back. And both players look overjoyed that they're playing.
Do you ever think that Duncan really does look like a Duncan?
Yeah, you get that with some people.
Yeah.
Like Deathsie looks like a Deathsie, doesn't he?
He looks like death.
No, whoa, hey.
Joking, sorry, it was just he doesn't. He looks grand as ever.
Honestly, like a very colourful young man.
Yeah.
Likes to change his hairstyle quite regularly.
I like that in a man.
Same. Same. It's how I choose my friends, actually, of how many times they've changed their hair colour.
So me and you, this is purely work-related?
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
You're going to the hotel alone later.
I wasn't expecting you to accompany me.
So Pirate Warrior for Deathsie.
Not what I was expecting.
No, people thought that Pirate Warrior would fall out of favour as well, of course, after nerfs happened. But nope, it's still there. It's still alive and kicking. And it's going to be the Temper Rogue for Duncan, so he's got some pirates of his own.
Yeah, the Shadow Step not looking like it's going to find the highest amount of value for Duncan, because basically in the early game, you're really just looking to hit Edwin Van Cleef or Kellerseth with it. Later on down the line, you can obviously Shadow Step your little Leroy Jenkins or your Valspine Slayers, things like that to get a little bit more value out of the battle cry. But here, it's not going to be too good, especially when you draw patches. This opening hand for Duncan has gone from reasonable to god-awful.
Yeah, and it would be equally as painful if Deathsie were to be drawing it as well, because he had the decision to play as Nazoth's first mate, but instead he was like, well, I've got South Sea Captain on 3, I can get a 2-2 patches out instead, or next turn I can just play it, like I'll just get more value on the board. And there is a Fiery War Axe there, Darok, which is interesting. At first everyone said it was going to be completely unplayable, but it has found its way back in.
I mean, if the Rallying Blade is running aggressive hunters, and the Eaglehorn bow is run in, did I say I meant aggressive paladins, and the Eaglehorn bow in the hunters, with both of those secrets very rarely getting the added benefit. It's basically the same as that, and I think you do just need the extra few weapons to push you over the edge and make the upgrades really worth putting in. But here for the turn 2, often going to be very weak for the Pirate Warrior now that it's most likely gone with a Keleseth route, as most of the Pirate Warriors had a pretty surprisingly good turn, getting a nice big weapon activated right away, and the ability for the South Sea Captain to be really nice on the following turn.
Yeah, a real shame that Duncan did draw patches, because this would have been a very different situation, clear up a couple of minions. There's always the worry as well playing as Pirate Warrior, or Tempo Rogue to be honest, that a Galactic Crawler might come out.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you won't see a Galactic Crawler realistically being run in a Pirate Warrior. It did used to happen, back in my day.
Well, you're not going to see it from the Rogue either.
No. Well, you say that, you do still see it.
Not in Keleseth versions.
No, not in Keleseth.
Right, yeah,
Right.
okay.
But, like, we have still seen it in Rogues.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Right. Yes.
I suppose if you're... That's one of the main benefits outside of Eviscerate in giving up the 2-cost slot for Prince Keleseth.
But yeah, with Shadow Step in play, you are completely right. There wouldn't be no room, and you may slap my wrist if you would like.
Should have moved my microphone a bit closer, maybe.
Yeah, no. People don't have to know what you slapped, really, but it's okay.
You coming back to my hotel room now?
Swashbuckler is one of these cards that's always been an interesting inclusion for me in Rogue, because on paper it's pretty lackluster at first, but then it can just pull you absolutely anything, of course. It can really swing a game, and it's very frustrating to go against. Yeah.
It's frustrating to play when you get nerfed Warsong Commander. What does it do? Give all your charge minions +1 attack? Yeah, this is useless. This is a 3-mana 2/3. Maybe you can buff up the patches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Patches can be a 2/1.
But that's a meme. That's not going to do anything.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, well, maybe you can go patches with the Warsong Commander, Shadow Step it back, get 4 damage to face.
Yeah. Don't like it.
I hate it.
And the Pirate Warrior is really in control here.
Yeah, this Frothing Berserker is going nowhere. You can buff up your weapon again with the upgrade and kill off the opposing pirate. Not even losing your patches after the buff goes. This could not be looking any better for Deathsie.
Yeah, and what way is there to answer this for Duncan realistically as well? The Warsong Commander and patches is going to do nada. Cabal Scalebane is about all you can play realistically here. And, okay, well,
Ooh.
Plague Scientist does help.
This is one of the rare instances where Plague Scientist is way better than Vilespine Slayer. There would have been no way to use the Slayer to kill off the Frothing Berserker there. But here, this is actually starting to look reasonable.
I love how Deathsie's nodding, like, yeah, Plague Scientist, yeah, I expected that.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah,
I knew that was
very
coming.
interesting.
Yeah. Whereas, realistically, if that was against me, I'd be like, why is he playing Plague Scientist?
It's in there as a one-off occasionally. I've seen it around.
Yeah, noticed it around. Found it very attractive.
I saw you. I'm not going to go down that line. I'm not much of a flirter.
No.
Oh, okay. Kind of expecting you to disagree with me there. That would have been the polite thing to do.
No, killed it off.
Okay.
Professional. So Deathsie hasn't really been pumping that much damage to face, as it were. He has been trading efficiently. It's worked out quite well. That's when a Pirate Warrior is at its best, when it can maintain a board as well as pushing a little bit of damage. But now is the situation where he can really start to pull the trigger and send a heck of a lot of damage towards this face.
Yep, there is no board clear from the Rogue to clear this up. Doesn't run Vanish, Fan of Knives, anything like that. Only single target removal. From Duncan's shrug there, I imagine he's going to get something pretty rubbish. That is something pretty rubbish. At this stage of the game, it's usually what you want, but no activators because Shadow Step has nothing to target. So that's a very quick, very sad loss for Duncan. There was not really much he could have done in that game.
Yeah, the Battle of the Ds, Deathsie will win. Deathsie from Reason Gaming as well. He's been representing Reason for quite a while now. Half a year, I think. Maybe even more. And on his debut, going 1-0 up, he'll be happy. Reason will be happy. Are you happy?
I am happy.
You happy with that Pirate Warrior performance?
Yeah. It's gone from the deck that you hate to see you take any victories at all because of how punishing it is to play against, how boring it is to play against sometimes. But now it's a little bit of a more interesting deck. Do you take Jambray's approach, where you put in the Argent Commanders? Do you go more aggressive, less aggressive with the Hydras, but more on board control? There's a lot of ways you can take it.
Did we see any 2-drops that game?
Don't believe we did.
Yeah, so quite possibly a Prince Kaliseth version
Probably
as well.
Yeah.
I like that I do like that Prince Kaliseth has suddenly had this rise in popularity because, well, no, I like and I hate it, right?
Okay, okay.
I hate it because I hate the card in a competitive environment. I love the idea of the card.
Yeah,
like,
very
I mean,
cool.
That is cool. But I like the fact that it was completely overlooked. And then suddenly one person went, oh, actually, no, this is going to be pretty good. And if I put this in, and then everyone else is like, okay, yeah. Well,
you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's what I love about Hearthstone, how the meta constantly develops. Of course, nerfs make a massive difference and they change things. Would we have seen Prince Kaliseth if Fiery War Axe was still a 2-drop? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
new strategies are constantly evolving.
They are. Evolving being a key word there, because, I mean, we look at Evolve Shaman, how that came of prominence during the end of Ungoro.
Yeah, it was basically just a meme, Evolve, for the longest time. But if you actually look back at the history of Shaman, I think that Evolve was always a good card and a decent deck. It's just mid-range Shaman and aggro Shaman were too strong for any other kind of Shaman to possibly survive.
And we haven't seen any of Shaman today, actually, but now we're into a Rogue versus Mage, the control variant for Duncan, and is going to be the tempo variant for Deathsie. And he does have a little bit of tempo. He's got Edwin as well in hand with Backstab and a coin, so a couple more nice draws. There is potential for a big old Edwin.
Yeah, especially with the Arcanologist coming down. Obviously good for Duncan in the fact that it's one of the, it's what you want to be doing on turn 2. But pretty good for Deathsie because it gives him the ability to use that backstab right now, make, what, an 8-8 Edwin right out of the gate. But then you've got a very weak follow-up. Maybe it's not worth going for that quite yet.
Would it be a 6-6?
Would it be a 6-6? Yeah, sorry, you're right, yeah.
It'd be a 6-6. Don't apologise, it's okay.
I kind of wanted to rhyme 8-8 and out the gate.
Yeah, your mind was focused on that one. You could have said 6-6, pick up sticks.
But that would be lame.
It would be lame.
Yeah, that's the problem therein.
I'm trying to think of other 6-6 rhymes when I really shouldn't, but Deathsie has said, I'm happy with a 6-6.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play any tricks.
It's a turn before Fireball. Very nice. You could Frostbolt it, but then it has to be another 3 damage spell to clear it off. I suppose for Duncan, though, you don't need to worry about it too much because it's not too much pressure early on. And with the pickup of Fireball, he really doesn't have to worry about it because he's got a very easy answer on the very next turn.
Yeah, I think you may have been tempted to Frostbolt it this turn if you didn't pick up that Fireball. However, you can just Frost Nova now if you're really scared about the damage, as you said. And he's just going to draw some cards, though. I'll tell you what, I know I've mentioned this a lot, but I do love when we have player cams because I love seeing the different homes, the different styles that we have. Who's gaming PCs in the kitchen? Duncan's.
Of course it is.
This man owns a gaming bar.
He does, actually.
And his PC is in the kitchen. Or maybe it's one of those front rooms into kitchens. It looks like it now.
Like a breakfast bar.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm quite jealous now.
Yeah, I quite want a smoothie.
He can play his PC, spin around on his chair, and go and pick up breakfast from the breakfast bar.
Bloody hell, I wish he'd accompany me to my hotel room.
So, amidst that rabble, we did see, of course, the Fireball come down, and Deathsie just trying to keep up as much tempo as possible, funnily enough. But his turn 5 is pretty awkward.
Yeah, kind of all his turns for the next few turns are pretty awkward, especially because this, now that we look at it, isn't a tempo rogue. This is a miracle rogue that we haven't actually even touched on for the last few turns.
Sorry. You know, when memes become too much, sometimes you miss things.
Yeah. It was, to be fair, it's a weird miracle rogue. The inclusion of Leroy Jenkins and Arcane Giants, I haven't seen that all too much. Like, it's quite a long time ago, obviously pre-Frozen Throne, but what was it, Stanu Dachi winning the Winter Championships with a Cold Blood Leroy Firefly version of the deck. Most players, like Casey, the Miracle God, preferring Arcane Giants as it's gone on, but here, a hybrid of the two.
A bit edgy, I'd say.
Very edgy.
Very edgy.
And unless a 0-cost spell is picked up, the Vilespine Slayer will not be able to clear off that Doomsayer. But as a pretty good consolation prize, we have got the Mimic Pod to keep up the value going. But to be honest, value's not really what you're looking for here. You're more looking to keep up the pressure earlier on before that Frostlich Jaina comes down. So I would be very unsurprised to see the Leroy here. You've got the dagger to clear up one of the whelps and keep this board development going.
Yeah, at least he's got something to do.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the pain, because otherwise you'd have to, well, just pass. And which does happen when there is a Doomsayer on board, but Mimic Pod isn't going to allow you to, do you freeze an opponent with that card? Am I being stupid if you play a spell? Wow, he's going to just jam Leroy on the board and clear this up.
I think I like this Sniper Blade for the reasons I mentioned. You just need to be prioritizing early aggression with this deck, because if it's cleared off in your opponent, something like a Blizzard is obviously what you're afraid of. You can just follow up with the rest of your minions in hand. Even just a Gadgets and Auctioneer on its own, it might... Okay, maybe that is a bit crazy, but you have ways to redevelop the board after it's cleared. Yeah,
I think the reason why I didn't like it and I overlooked it was because I have Cast Vision and I can see the Volcanic Potion, and I just assumed that it wasn't a bad play, but...
Sure.
It's doing something. But it's just a shame because you lose that 6 damage and you lose that potential later for, well, 10 damage with the Cold Blood. That would be why I would be reluctant to go for that play, because you've basically done exactly the same thing that you would have done if you had passed.
Yeah, and I guess, to be honest, if you actually look at it, the reason to go for the Leroy was to stick stuff on board and keep an aggressive line of play. But here we've had to go for the Mimic Pod on the following turn anyway. You've developed nothing after the clear. And as you said, you don't have the explosive burst potential that Leroy Coldblood Eviscerate could have afforded you. Yeah. The way it's worked out, neither game plan has gone particularly well of value or aggressive board development.
I think it was a risk. Knowing that Blizzard existed on turn 6, knowing the Volcanic Potion was there as well, I think getting rid of the Doomsayer was a very abrupt decision made by Deathsie, but it is a risk that could have paid off, because for the reasons you've mentioned. If there wasn't that removal there, then you are rewarded for that risky play. Another Blizzard available for Duncan if he wants... I say another one. There is a Blizzard available for Duncan if he wants it. A third Ice Block there.
I think I do prefer the Blizzard because it gives you the ability to weaken the Arcane Giants, maybe couple it with a Doomsayer later on down the line. Whereas the Ice Block, you know, if you're going Ice Block turn after turn, if you had a higher damage variant with Alexstrasza and Pyroblast, I could see the reasoning for going with this, the third Ice Block. But here, because it probably seems to be a more value-oriented version of the deck with Frostlich Jaina, I prefer going for the Blizzard.
I wonder if we're going to see Valera in the deck for Deathsie. Probably not. Maybe. I mean... Valera plus Arcane Giants, sometimes you can get even more value and you can get 3 of them out.
Yeah.
Certainly having Eviscerates as well, along with the Valera, can allow you to get that extra damage. But she was very much put in pretty much all of the Miracle Rogues at first, and then slowly they started to remove her and go back to the more traditional style that we were used to seeing before the expansion anyway. Because she was the only new card really in the that was included, right?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the main reasons that Miracle Rogue hasn't been, you know, included too much. It was okay in the previous meta, but it hasn't really got any extra presence. Unfortunately, the Disciple of Cthulhu? Cthulhu Elder, tiny gnome dude?
I don't want to guess, but it's not Disciple of Cthulhu, because that's the 2-1.
Yeah.
The 2-1 that deals 2 damage.
Oh, God, I'm completely messing these up.
It's okay.
Thankfully, Cthulhu is garbage. Twilight Elder.
Twilight Elder, there we go.
There you go, no Cthulhu.
It sounds like production told you that, but they didn't.
They actually didn't, no. Yeah, that was all me.
That was all you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks, buddy. The Frostlich Jaina coming down on turn 9 now, serving the dual benefit of basically meaning you're not going to be winning through face damage, and you're probably not going to be seizing back board control because of the fact that I can deal, you know, just get so many water elementals on the board. They're going to be healing me, wrestling back board control. That is, in fact, unless several very big minions can come down from Deathsie right now.
Well, he needs to get this Questing Avenger on the board at some point, is the main issue, because otherwise he's not going to be able to really get any value out of it. I guess he's hoping for some more little spells before he puts it on the board. The Vilespine Slayer, of course, is going to come out here from Deathsie, I would have thought, just to kill off this water elemental. He can then use a Cold Blood if he wants to push some extra damage here and really put the pressure onto Duncan. But it is a tricky spot when you know there is so much removal, so much stall available for the the control mage.
Wow, I was going to say, I suppose the main weakness, in the mage's arsenal, is the fact that they're vulnerable to high burst damage. And I was going to say, after you go with the Valspine Slayer, if any minion is left unfrozen from this point in, the double Cold Blood will do a fantastic job of pushing a surprise lethal. But it looks like he's going with the much more aggressive plan, saving his Valspine Slayers, which, to be honest, I don't know how much I like.
Speaking of surprise lethal, there's an Alexstrasza as well, if Duncan's able to get a good amount of damage in his hand. But I think you freeze here and you stall. I don't think there's any other...
So you have the ice block up, so Alexstrasza, you're not going to die, but the Alexstrasza minion itself is very likely to be killed off, so you won't be attacking that to face. And then after that, you've got only 12 damage to follow up with. But maybe if you can fit in a couple of pings while freezing after the Alexstrasza, that could just lead to a victory. And to be honest, given that you've got a Frost Nova and 2 Blizzards in hand, I think that's almost a guaranteed lethal over the next few turns. So I would probably just have preferred the Alexstrasza.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's where my mind instantly went was, all right, Alexstrasza taken down to 15, you're going to win over a few turns. But I guess that's the more aggressive approach when Duncan, from what I've learned from him across the season, is he is a very conservative player. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I can see
I just thought of the Conservative Party, and it made me... It made me feel a bit weird.
He may be.
Yeah, but he is that kind of player who he just wants to play the safe option every time. He doesn't want to take any risks, and if he thinks there's any chance of Deathsie pushing the damage, then that's why.
I actually, thinking back over my line of play, obviously once the ice block is popped, if you're freezing and pinging each turn, you don't necessarily have the mana to play ice blocks every turn, which means that spell damage from hand can actually kill you off. So upon thinking about it, even though you can freeze the opponent's board every turn, that doesn't necessarily lead to a solved victory whatsoever. So probably in the long run, given how many water elementals you can develop over the game, Duncan's plan might have been a better way to go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Hearthstone, right? There sometimes are options that could potentially win you the game faster in certain scenarios. However, you usually go for the option that is going to guarantee you the win. Of course, if there is an obvious lethal on board, you do it.
You take that?
Well, most people do. There are people who don't.
Thankfully, most of those people won't have made it to this point in the competition, I would hope.
Well, I mean, we've seen famous miss-lethals across the Premiership seasons from many a people. Even the best of players sometimes miss lethal. We've seen
even you.
Yes. I'm not even gonna. Yeah. I like that you've called me a good player, though. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Twitch chat will not agree with you, but it's okay. They don't always have to.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'd like to think that Twitch chat have grown accustomed to my face by this point in the Premiership, though. We should have some regular viewers by this point.
It takes a while.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest.
To grow accustomed to my face.
Yeah.
I've grown
acquired taste.
to your face. What's that from?
I don't know.
Phantom of the Opera?
Haven't seen it.
Don't really know, but anyway, on a tangent yet again. And the stall still coming out from Duncan, and actually now he's got a Doomsayer to follow it up with if he really wants, but he's more inclined to get the Water Elemental out, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think you just want to be maximizing the value from your hero power every turn. These water elementals are fantastic. They line up really nicely at taking out a big minion like the Arcane Giant that we see here. And even if they're just keeping you at a healthy life total, it's just an annoyance for Deathsie that he has to deal with. It's starting to look a little bit scarier, though, for Duncan, because the amount of big minions that can be developed by Deathsie is starting to look pretty good. We could see, you know, double questing Arcane Giant Shaku here. Probably not the play, because you want to be killing off that water elemental, but we could see very big minions being thrown down.
And I was going to say, I'm okay with him putting big minions on the board if he keeps a Valspine Slayer, because he knows there is a possibility of a Doomsayer.
Right.
Plus freeze. I mean, I know it's possible because I can see it in his cards, but, you know.
I guess he just thought, I have to pray that Doomsayer isn't there, because if Freeze plus Doomsayer comes down, I lose anyway, because if I'm leaving up this Water Elemental, he's going to start killing off my stuff, he's going to be bringing his minions back up to too high of a health total. And in this instance, unless Sap comes off the top, sometimes run in Miracle Rogues, there's really not much that can be done here.
Swashbuckler into Fireball. That would work out well.
Oh,
there we go.
It.
Well, there we have it. That is a chance back to the game for Deathsie.
Okay, so Pavel gets Babbling Book into Polymorph. Deathsie's meme is Swashbuckler into Polymorph.
What can we call it, though? If it's the Paveling Book, the
Deathling Burger. Nailed it!
You said burger. We're not talking about a burger restaurant.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that was wrong with the sentence that I just said from my face.
Maybe that is Deathsie's next move in his career. Makes a burger chain.
Makes a burger chain.
I'd go there.
Deathsie's.
Inviting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You definitely want to go in there to spend your money. And now... All right. So Duncan is now facing a board that he didn't really want to be facing. And let's be realistic, probably wasn't expected to be facing. So now he has the option of playing the Alexstrasza aggressively and saying, I have another ice block and I have damage across some turns.
Yeah, so the difference here is that you don't have to go for staying alive for a couple more turns because you can fit the pings in to deliver lethal. Now you have the option for Firelands Portal and Ice Block, although I suppose you'd go for that last because of the potential for Corrupted Heal Bot. But you just go with Burn to the face, Ice Block, finish them off with Firelands Portal. This is pretty much a solved lethal.
He solved it. He's done. He's completed Hearthstone. Congratulations, Duncan. You've made it to 1-1.
Ben Brode kicks the door down. Here's your certificate. Yuck, 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 yuck.
It's like a swimming certificate. Did you ever get those at school? You didn't?
No, I didn't do lessons.
Can you swim?
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Very well, thank you.
Oh, great. You could probably swim better than me, and I had lessons.
Yeah.
Someone who can't swim, though, is my mum.
I thought you were going to say Deathsie. I thought that was your analogy.
Yeah, I was going to.
Your mum can't swim?
No.
No.
Shame. She doesn't like, but I'm actually not going to continue that sentence.
Please tell us more about your mother.
Definitely not, because there's so much memes that could be made if I said that. Daniel Gaskin.
Well, that's her name.
That's my name. Yeah, I was named after my mother. She's Dan Gaskin.
The fourth.
Yeah. That's how we name the Gaskins.
Well, you just add another Dan Gaskin in the middle.
Exactly. I actually have 17 middle names.
All of which are Dan or Gaskin.
Exactly. We're related. So meanwhile, while we're talking about my ridiculous name, Duncan has pretty much solved the puzzle, unless we see Shaku doing anything crazy.
Yeah, he's basically just thinking, is there a way I can deliver 2-turn lethal whilst killing off Shaku? Because of the possibility of Ice Block or Counterspell, I think are the only two things he needs to be afraid of. You can't discover Eater of Secrets with that method. Yeah, I think that's the only thing he really needs to be afraid of. So unless Shaku gets... I mean, if it were a counterspell, it would stop lethal because you can't go Frostbolt and follow up with Firelands Portal's second Frostbolt, but that is not the case. Arcane Intellect maybe into Hallucination into one of the similar things. There's outs.
What about Valera?
Oh,
there
right,
is one.
okay.
There isn't one. Never mind.
Okay, that was a good point. Yeah, Valera would have saved him for a turn.
Spellbender there. Nope, that's not going to help.
Minions. That's it?
Yep.
Oh, can you shuffle the Shaku back into your deck with Manic Soulcaster? No.
But then, how would you play it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the whole...
I like our optimism, though. We reached the height of optimism during that play. All the thoughts that Deathsie probably went through as well. All the emotions that you can't see on his face.
Yeah.
Very stern, both of these players, actually. When we go from... This is why it was a shame we didn't see Hello Leroy on camera, because he really shows his emotions.
Yeah, both players showing, I think, why the... You know, Hearthstone is... okay, well, he's still got the... Okay,
well, he was... he obviously had to try and play around secrets in case it was a counterspell or something like that. But, yeah. Either way, Duncan does tie it up 1-1 after a hard-fought game for him. I was thinking the Rogue might have got there in the end, but several awkward turns. For example, using Leroy Jenkins to kill off the Doomsayer and then being punished by Volcanic Potion. And then Mage showing why it's so impressive, the Control Mage.
I think if there is any game tonight to go back and really analyse, it's that one, because there were so many turns in the middle where it was kind of an even playing field for both the players. Maybe, you know, Duncan should have played his Alexstrasza a little bit earlier on, more aggressively. Maybe Deathsie should have been playing his minions out a bit more, you know, aggressively himself, playing out both of those questing adventurers and just praying that there's no removal from your opponent, because if there is, you lose anyway.
Yeah, you're completely right, because we were saying should he have played Alexstrasza a little bit earlier, his hand was forced maybe 6 turns later to do that exact thing in almost the same position anyway, except his opponent had more stuff on the board. So yes, definitely something I'd like to look back on, and I'm sure you would at home as well. Maybe you could just press the mute button if I said a lot of stupid things, but I'm not going to listen to myself again.
They probably won't be able to hear you say that, because they've already muted you. Yeah.
Deserve it. Deserve it from the banter bell. Game 3 then. We've got Deathsie with Rogue or Druid, and we have Duncan with Priest or Le Rogue. Just looking at the fact that Duncan has a Priest makes me want to lean towards Duncan in this series. Figuratively, rather than literally, I am not doing this towards Duncan.
I don't know where he is to lean towards him geographically.
He's in London. We're in Leicester.
That's
never eat
that's
shredded
south,
wheat.
So it's down, right? Yeah. Oh, that's what the maps say.
If they have got me muted, they don't know what on earth I'm doing right now. Hello.
This was so much easier with Munch.
Munch on this. Here we go then. 3rd game of the final series of the night. It's been an absolutely cracking day, I've got to say. I've loved having you here, Derek.
Oh, thanks, man.
I hope we get to work together more.
It's been a good fun.
It has been a lot of fun. Some might say too fun, but second time Duncan draws his patches.
Yeah, this is definitely not too fun for Duncan. This is probably too little fun for Duncan. He's got effectively the same hand he had when he lost with his Tempo Rogue the last time, with a Southsea Captain, a Shadow Step, and a patches that is drawn that is truly awful, especially as Deathsie looks like he's gearing up for a nice big Edwin on turns 3 or 4. Yeah,
the prep's going to be really good for him to be able to pick up, but he needs to find something else to combine with it, and
There's
I guess the Fan of Knives, and how high can my voice go?
Very hard. I'm not even going to attempt it. Nope. My voice will crack. I'm still like 16,
You're going to read a little book? You're going to have a little novel on the go? How's that going, Brian? Yeah, Deathsie picking up the preparation was actually pretty big. You can combine this now with Fan of Knives if he wants a 6/6 again. It didn't work out too well for him last time, though.
I think now you go with the Shaku, because any one cost card you pick up there, be it even Patches, Swashbuckler, Firefly if that's in the deck, just makes it so much better, giving an extra +2/+2. You've got a perfectly good play here anyway with the Shaku, and now that you can stick Cold Blood on that and start pushing to face whilst you slam down your big old Edwin, it's looking very juicy.
Edwin looks juicy quite a lot, doesn't he?
Juicy boy.
Maybe that'll be one of the burgers at Deathsie's burger restaurant. The Juicy Edwin.
The Juicy Edwin.
I think I need to
trademark this. Yeah, I just can't even respond to that.
But yeah, you're completely right. I mean, next turn he's of course got Edwin into Prep, into Fan, into Cold Blood as well. So even if there is a relatively big minion put on the board by Duncan, Deathsie can deal with it with the Cold Blood onto Shaku. And then you're drawing in looking for even more refill. I love Shaku as a card.
Oh yeah, it's such a cool card.
Of course, people have their gripes with any card that generates a random card.
I just like how perfectly it seems to sit on the power level. It's nowhere near too strong, but it's perfectly good enough to make its way into the majority of rogue decks at the moment. And here the Phantom Knives working out perfectly in combination with the dagger to finish off the Flame Elemental. The Edwin Van Cleef can come down as well. You're pushing damage to face, you're generating cards, you're making a nice big body, you're doing everything right in this instance.
Everything right, but everything's going wrong for Duncan. I mean, drawing patches twice is frustrating enough, but it's the fact he has no answers to this. Double backstab, not going to help. I mean, I'm half tempted just to concede. You backstab in patches to deal with Shaku, I presume. Do you?
Okay, so in this instance, you know the game is going absolutely horribly for you, so you need to think, what instances do I actually stand a chance in? So do I just save all my cheap cards for a giant Edwin that I have to top deck on the following turn?
He can kill the 8/8 here. He would have to take 8 to face to do so.
Oh,
it would be a backstab plus patches plus deckhand.
But then you're using the coin, which you really want to save for the Bone Mare on turn 7, or to put it down on turn 6, sorry. I mean, he knows he's winning this game through a Bone Mare at the moment. Maybe through, a top deck Edwin, as I said. But I guess he's just got to go for it. It feels so rough, leaving the Shaku up as well. Oh, no, okay.
Okay.
I suppose this makes more sense because the Shaku is absolutely a must kill.
Yep.
You can take the extra damage, you're denying your opponent a couple of cards, and you're saying, hopefully, I'll find myself in the situation where my minions can clear up on the following turn. And to be honest, that looks like that might be the case. But then the Questing Adventurer can come down on this very turn, and it puts Deathsie in a situation where he's saying, right, you once again have to deal with 2 minions that you don't have the resources to do.
Yeah, I really quite like trading Edwin into the South Sea Captain,
Oh, wow.
playing Questing Adventurer, and then hero powering down the patches, and saying, what have you got, bro?
Come at me, fam.
Yeah. You ever been to London? Don't go.
Don't go?
No. Just don't say that in London.
What?
If you go to a meltdown with Duncan, don't say come at me, fam.
Come at me, fam.
No.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
What's the man dem gonna do? Am I right? Fit right in?
I don't know what to do with myself right now. I'm in an uncomfortable situation.
I feel itchy.
Yeah. But Deathsie has done just that.
Oh.
He is literally saying, come at me, bro.
There is nothing that Duncan can do. Kill off the Questing Adventurer, and then you have no green outlined cards in your hand at all.
Confirmation from the floor. We have another result off stream. Ting Ting won 3-2 against Skittler.
Wow. So not looking good for Stittler.
Stittler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a
Stittler for
not
a
a Stittler for a Tittler.
Yeah. What is that from?
Might be Simpsons.
Yeah. It sounds like a Simpsons or a Curb thing.
Yeah, I think it is Simpsons. Possible concede moment now for Duncan, unless he can pick up anything from the Deathsie Burglar.
Oh, that's not bad. You're dead, but it's not bad.
No, he needs something like an Eviscerate realistically here.
Yep.
He does have several options to find it, though, with all these bounce backs. Jade, Shuriken, nope.
Yeah, that's not quite going to cut it yet.
It's not.
It does open up other options like Shiv to be able to kill off the Edwin now.
Keep digging.
Oh, he's got the hallucination. He's getting there. This is quite a train.
This is quite a train, but none of those
Ooh,
are leaving the station.
Jade synergy.
And unfortunately, Deathsie... Well, unfortunately for Duncan, Deathsie is going 2-1 up here. Again, I want to mention this is his first ever game live in the ESL Premiership.
Yeah, going pretty well for Deathsie here. To be honest, not really through luck of his own, or even great playing prowess of his own so far, mainly just because...
There was the Deathsie Burglar that got the polymorph.
Okay, yeah, okay, I take it back. Everything's going in Deathsie's favour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's how Hearthstone goes sometimes. Sometimes it does go in your favour, but it's been going against Duncan as well, with those both patches being drawn. And Deathsie now needs a win with his Druid against either Duncan's Priest or, of course, the same rogue that is troubling Duncan so very much.
Yeah, trying to get a win with at least one of his decks here, going with the Kazakus Priest. Before the nerfs to Innovate, this was definitely a very, very favoured match. Well, not a very, very favoured, but a favoured matchup for the Druid. But I wonder how much it's actually impacted the matchup, because very often, as the Druid, you wouldn't keep Innovate because you were just looking for hard ramp cards, not instant mana gain cards, the cards that get you up to Ultimate Infestation as quickly as possible. But now that it's a little bit harder to get to Ultimate Infestation as quickly as possible, I think the plan is basically just ramp a little bit and play all the Jades you can on curve and beat down your opponent before they get their Raza Anduin combo online.
And it's funny because Druid was the control killer, right? And then Priest turned up and just beats everything.
Yeah.
It's a bit annoying, really, especially if the Priest runs Skulking Ghost as well. Then Druid really struggles. But, I mean, even without it, the fact that the Druid's like, well, I can just get loads of Jades on the board. Then then Anduin comes down when they're 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9s. And then they're only putting one Jade down at a time. And the Priest just has so much removal that they're still just the better deck in this matchup, at least in my opinion. Do you agree, or do you think the Druid wins this one?
So I think that the Druid is still probably favoured. I'd be very surprised if a Skulking Geist does come down from Duncan, because the way that you lose in this matchup, as I said earlier on, is when they just nut draw the Jades, or not even nut draw, just get a really good draw of Jades and playing them on turn. Aya on 6, followed up by Jade Behemoth, all that good stuff that you can't deal with, even if you have a Dragonfire Potion and stuff like that. If the game goes long and they start shuffling their Jade Idols, you're very likely going to win with Raza and Anduin, just killing them with the Prophet Bell and Mind Blast. But this hand is looking like a pretty good way to get things going for Deathsie. He can go for Wild Growth into Jade Spirit. If he finds himself with a top decking a Ultimate Infestation, he can Nourish for ramp. Otherwise, maybe he does it for draw to find himself cards like Eye of Blackpool on turn 6.
Deathsie doing that thing where a player hovers over a card that they're not going to play to try and indicate to the opposition that they've got a card that they could play.
Yeah.
What card is he trying to show that he has, though?
What, Deathsie?
No, Duncan.
Oh, Duncan.
Duncan was hovering over Silence.
Right.
I may just be reading into this too much, but it is always something that intrigues me, is player interaction with cards.
I mean, on turn 1, if it's not the coin, which you know it isn't, as Deathsie you know where that is, it's going to be pretty much just the Northshire Cleric, maybe the Crystalline Oracle. It's crept its way into a couple of deck lists. Or maybe the Holy Smite to face. You just want to properly Dennis your opponent down.
Dennis them down?
Were you not in Hearthstone when Dennis was a thing?
Dennis?
Oh, mate, that's a vintage meme.
I mean, I've been playing since beta.
Really? Okay, so
Dennis what?
I think it was Crip went up against this player called Dennis.
Yeah.
And on turn 1, he played, Claw, the 1-mana Druid card, and just slammed it to face. And then on turn 2, I think he did the same thing. Basically, it was the worst play he'd ever seen, and he was called Dennis.
And okay. No, I didn't really know like the likes of Crip back when I played it during beta. I was a scrub. Still am, but I know who Crip is.
Watchers.
Yeah. Yes.
The discerning gentleman of Hearthstone.
You know when I last saw you in Brighton?
I do.
For the Hearthstone Citadel tour.
Yeah.
I was interviewed by a man, and he said, "Do I skip the Crip?" And at the time, I completely blanked and was like, "What?"
Didn't know Skipperino.
I was like,
Cripperino.
"Yeah," and he was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh no, what have I done? I've broken the internet. Someone's gonna hate me."
Someone is gonna hate you.
Enough people already do. It's okay. But I still sleep at night. Just. As long as I don't read Twitch chat.
I can keep even the sleepiest of men awake.
Ooh.
So an obvious swipe here is the only pick. I suppose some Jade Druid decks played around with a living mana, but yeah, it's just much more.
I was more saying ooh to the fact that swipe is nice, just having extra removal.
Yeah.
But there are so famously times when people play Curious Glimmer and forget what it does.
Yeah.
Like when you're in autopilot and you just think it's a discover mechanic, and then you go, oh no.
Eloise was doing that in the tournament I was casting her. It was quite funny. It was good banter from the chat. Yeah. Hey!
Just never say the B word. But Deathsie, he hasn't been able to get much Jades out, but he has ramped up. I mean, he's going to be on turn 8 next turn already. So a significant advantage, and he will be able to play Medivh.
And it's, Medivh is a really nice consolation prize instead of the Jades that you really do want to be playing. Especially, well, Savage Roar probably not going to be getting too much value in this matchup as of yet, but it is one of the cards I've seen slotted in just to give a bit more power to your smaller minions, the cards that actually summon the Jade Idols, like the Jade Behemoth and the Jade Spirit themselves. And it might be pretty good, because once the Shadow Reaper Anduin blasts away all the big Jades, you might have a few little ones behind that the Savage Roar can deliver a surprise lethal with.
I guess it's a little bit like a Flame Tongue Totem.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
In a very...
More like a Bloodlust, if you want to go in the Shaman comparison.
Bloodlust is 5 mana.
Right.
But I mean, like, it's like kind of like a Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah.
Sort of. No? Shall I stop?
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Well, the swipe is coming in handy by just chopping down this Medivh. Without it, it was actually looking pretty tough for Duncan.
Yeah, and it's starting to look pretty rough for Deathsie. If it was turn 10, obviously he could go with the Wild Growth. He just, as I've said, Plan A has not come into effect at all for Deathsie. He hasn't got himself any of the Jades on curve. They're still at 2-2, and he's at 9 mana, which is really not where you want to be. He can go for, as we see here, the swipe just with the Atiesh. Spirit Singer Umbra, there's not really any synergy in the deck. It's starting to look like if Duncan can find the Raz of the Chained in anywhere in the next 6, 7, 8 cards, he'll be in a really nice spot.
Yeah, Dragonfire Potion is an almost guaranteed option here. Is it? Yeah. I second-guessed myself a little bit because I was just looking at any other possibilities. I guess you don't have to. If you're not too worried about 11 damage, the fact you've got Priest of the Feast in your hand as well that can bring you back some health, you don't necessarily have to do it because next turn Deathsie could play a couple of Jades and they're still less than 5.
I think that's the main thing here, is that you're looking to save the Dragonfire Potion for when the Jades get to 4-4 and 5-5, because that will be more threatening than what we see here. There's not actually that much attack power on board. I suppose there is 11, which is quite scary. But this is probably the play as Duncan that I would have gone for. Maybe with the Doomsayer as well, just to buy you a bit more health. But we can see it's actually pretty scary with the Savage Roar, adding 10 power to the board. What is this, 21 damage?
Yeah. Plus a hero power.
Mm-hmm.
Plus Atish being there, that's 23.
Well, Atish disappears.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's only 22.
Only 22.
Shame. You have actually seen people, I say you, we've seen people miss lethal with stuff like that before as well.
Yeah,
Thinking they have that extra 1 damage and then the spell, of course, knocking it away. Glad you're here, at least.
Thanks, buddy.
But Deathsie taking the option now to find and use this damage that he has available.
Yeah, doesn't want to go with Malfurion. I guess he's thinking he's extending into AoE enough even before that. But it was the vastly more mana-efficient play, and it would have upgraded his hero power for following turns, so he can start the 3 damage beatdown each turn. And he's only going to be adding 1 extra damage with the hero power here.
Yeah, which he's probably going to use to trade into Priest of the Feast anyway, yeah. But now seeing the Savage Roar, it's how well Duncan knows the current Druid meta and what's in the deck list, which you'd expect quite well for a, well, I'm going to say a full-time player, but I guess he's not really a full-time player. He's maybe a semi-pro. I'll go with that.
A very well-respected player.
Yeah, well-respected player who plays a lot of Hearthstone. And seeing 1 Savage Roar, are you worried about a second? You can't really afford to leave all that on the board in the case of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate here that he didn't feel he could save the Dragonfire Potion for 1 more turn, because then you have the option to go Dragonfire Potion, Doomsayer, make sure you have the initiative on your following turn, and you can just slam down Prophet Velen, which is really nice against Druid because they're unlikely to be able to remove it, and then you can start pushing some damage with both the minion and possibly pick up a Mind Blast as well. So maybe I would have preferred on the previous turn going for the Binding Heal, healing yourself up as much as possible, then follow up with the Doomsayer on the with the Dragonfire Potion Doomsayer on turn 8 here. But I suppose you were afraid of Mark of the Lotus, which could have blown you out of the game. So it definitely wasn't a horrible play.
Yep, and having to use this Binding Heal and Prophet Velen just to stay out of range of any possible lethal.
But here the Velen is just easily traded into.
Yep, it is, which does allow Duncan more time. And time is definitely it's a good thing when you know you've got potential 5/5 Jades coming out next, and you have Shadow Reaper Anduin, of course. But Deathsie's in a relatively good spot. The only issue is he is running out of cards.
Yeah, as soon as, like, it could go really wrong for Deathsie. We could see Pint-Sized Potion as the next card picked up by Duncan, clear board from Deathsie, and initiative for Duncan to hopefully find that Raza over the next few turns. But maybe there's no way for Duncan to clear the board, and Ultimate Infestation is picked up off the top for Deathsie. This could very much go either way at this point.
Yeah, it looks like Deathsie's more than happy to take 7 to the face as well.
Oh yeah.
As we learned from an earlier series with George C, sometimes just taking damage to face is the better way. And keeping more on the board. You've already seen the Dragonfire Potion, so you're not particularly concerned about it. There's that Mind Blast we were talking about.
Yeah, picked up after the Prophet Velen had died. So if he'd taken a slightly slower approach with the Dragonfire Potion and made sure that Prophet Velen stuck on the board, I think he'd probably be in a better spot to start pushing damage with the Mind Blast. And then after your opponent pieces together the minions to kill off the Prophet Velen, then you can play Shadow Reaper Anduin and start killing your opponent. But in this case, your hero power doesn't cost 0, and the Mind Blast is only going to be dealing 5. But here is probably the main reason why Duncan was afraid of leaving a wide board open and wanted to go with that Dragonfire Potion as quickly as possible.
Gets extra value from his hero power, of course, but I don't know if the 3 armor is really going to matter too much.
Yeah, if there's the potential for the Priest to start actually racing pretty quickly once the combo gets activated. But yeah, I agree. In this instance, with the Prophet Velen down and the Raza nowhere in sight, it's still looking mighty good for the Jade Druid.
Wrong potion.
Psych! That's the wrong potion.
It's a shame. Duncan could have used with being able to clear with Shadowwood Horror. And this is the thing, like, it's so tempting. You want to play Shadow Reaper Anduin because it's so good, it gains you 5 armor, but you know that killing any minion that's higher than 5 attack is so important, especially when these Jades are getting bigger.
Yeah, I think if you'd played Raza at an earlier point in this game, it wouldn't really be a question, because getting the fully activated 0 mana repetitive hero power on board is so important. But because it's only a 2 damage repetitive hero power, it's not going to be clearing up this entire board. So you have to prepare for the eventuality where this board keeps attacking to your face. So maybe the 5 armor generated from Shadow Reaper Anduin just isn't enough. But throwing down the Shadow Word Horror here all of a sudden means that the pickup of Pint-Sized Potion is useless. You're really just going to be praying that you find some other way to clear this board, which I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, just Duncan doing what he can, really, to try and stay alive for as long as possible, but there is that Jade Blossom, there is that first 5-5. Down to just 2 HP now for Duncan. And yeah, where do you get back into this? You can play Shadow Reaper Anduin and heal up. That gets you up to 9.
You're dead.
You're dead.
I think that's it.
That is it. Deathsie in his debut wins 3-1 versus Duncan, as well as we saw an earlier victory for George C in his debut in the Premiership. So the new boys doing well, which quite famously does happen a lot in Premiership seasons. We see these new players rise up and really take the Premiership by storm. I came up with some more names for Deathsie and Swashbuckler.
That's what you were writing down.
You came up with Deathsie Burglar. I have the Swashsea, the Swadurgler, or what was the other one I had? The Swash Death.
Swash Death.
I can't decide which one's my favourite, but
sounds like the name for a very particularly disgusting metal band.
Oh, so band or burger place?
I think both. You have, you know, you get your big Deathsie.
Yep.
Over at the counter, and then you sit down, and Flaming Steve and his Death Rockers just come and scream in your face a bit as you eat. Yeah.
I like it a lot. Let's have a look at the live table, and let's have a look at the standings and see how they stand